Hello students, and welcome to another video on government grants. And this question is very interesting because it relates to government grants where they provide you with a subsidy to fund employee salaries. However, you would find on the slides we had an example where we assumed that the financial years of the company versus the financial year as from the date that the government makes this subsidy payment coincides. However, this question is interesting because this shows us what to do when the financial year of the company does not coincide with the financial year as from the date that the government grant or the subsidy is paid. So if we read together, the question says, abba company is an entity that recently received support from the local government. The company is obliged to employ both skilled and unskilled employees. Consequently, the entity receives subsidies to fund remuneration of workers. All necessary appointments were done by 1 March 2021, but subsidies were only paid by the government on 1 June 2021. All right, so this is beginning to sound a lot like South Africa. You already have to appoint people in March, but you only get payment in June. Subsidies are as follows. For skilled workers, a subsidy of 1.5 million is received by abba company. The company employs 10 skilled workers who earn 8,000 Rand per month per employee as from 1 March 2021. Skilled workers earn annual salary increases of 7% per annum on 1 March of every year. Then, for unskilled workers, a subsidy of 800,000 Rand was received. The company employs 7 unskilled workers who earn 5,000 Rand per month per employee as from 1 March 2021. Unskilled workers earn annual salary increases of 5% per annum on 1 March every year. The subsidies are paid to cover salaries for a total of 2 years. Then, for the accounting policy, they say government subsidies are, it should say, treated as deferred income and written off against the associated expense over the time span of the subsidy. So you will see this counts a lot of marks. This is a 20-mark question. And you have just received this little bit of information, but that's where the trick comes in because a lot of the marks lie with calculations because so little information is given to you that you need to do all the calculations yourself, and this is where the marks come in. So for required A, they ask you to construct the general journal entries as it relates to the skilled employees and their salary subsidy for the years ended 28 February 2022 and 28 February 2023. Then construct the general journal entries as it relates to the unskilled employees salary subsidy for the year ended 28 February 2022 and 2023. So let's see how we will go about it. I'm going to start with calculations as it relates to the skilled workers, and then we will also do the unskilled workers. So these are just now our calculations. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to remind myself that I should be funding, or we should be funding 2 years, right? They tell us in the question 2 years needs to be funded of this or this grant or subsidy needs to be used for 2 years. So I know my year 1 runs from 1 March 2021 to 28 February 2022. And I just need to say text wrap. Then I know my year 2 runs from 1 March, and this is now based on my financial year as it relates to the company, to 28 February 2023. All right. Now let's see what information is given to us and how we can use it. So the first information that I see in the question is that they tell us how much each worker earns per month. So I'm just going to say 1 employee per month, right? How much do they earn? Well, they tell us for skilled workers, they have 8,000 Rand a month, but that it escalates by 7% every year. So for 1 March 2022, it's going to increase by 7%. So I'm going to take the 8,000 and times it by 1,07. So that gives us 8,560 to accommodate the increase that needs to be paid. Then I need to say for 1 employee, if I can ever type correctly, per year. So now I'm going to take whatever I've calculated and I'm going to times it by 12 because I want an annual amount. And then I need to go and indicate what it would be for all the employees combined. And if I look at the question, they tell us that for skilled workers, we had to employ 10 of them. So I'm going to say for 10 employees per year. And therefore, I now need to take the annual amount and I need to times it by 10 so that I can have a salary for 10 individuals. All right. From this point forward, I now need to go and check how the difference between my financial year and the payment of the subsidy is going to influence this calculation. Because although my financial year runs 1 March to 28 February, the payment is only done by the government on 1 June. So their financial year is going to run 1 June to what? 31st of May. And that does not coincide with our financial year. So we now need to make it go or coincide with our financial year. And to do that, we need to go and check, all right, what is the actual months funded by this subsidy? And the actual months funded will be 1 June to 28 February. And that means because we get it on 1 June of 2021, we will only be able to fund the salaries when we get the money, right? You can't fund salaries backwards, right? So you're going to say it's June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, and February. So this is 9 months that we are able to fund the money, the salaries. Then in the next year, we will be able to fund all 12 months. We will be able to fund out of the subsidy because by the time 1st of March comes, the subsidy is already received because we get it on 1 June of the previous year. Right, but a problem remains if I look at the number of months because I need to fund salaries for 2 years. But if I look at this now, I have now funded salaries only for 1 year and 9 months. So I should actually use this subsidy to fund an additional 3 months. So even though it seems like I'm funding 2 years, because the financial years don't coincide, it's actually going to run over 3 of my financial years. So I'm going to add year 3, which is going to be 1 March 2023 to 28 February 2024. And here I now need to do the calculations for this year as well so that I am able to fund 24 months with this subsidy. In order to calculate that the salary of 1 employee, I'm going to take the 8,560 and I'm going to increase it by 7%. And then I need to times it by 12 months to get to an annual salary per employee. And then I need to times it by 10 to get to a salary for all of the employees. All right, wonderful. Then I have now calculated the actual months that are funded. The next thing I need to do is I need to go and calculate the actual salaries that are funded. Because this subsidy that we've received will not be able to fund 960,000 Rand in the first year because we didn't get it on time. We can only fund 9 months of that 960,000. So to calculate the actual salaries funded, I'm going to say I take the 960,000 and I say because we get the payment late, we only fund 9 months of the 12 months. So I divide it by 12 and I times it by 9. For my year 2, I am able to fund all 12 months. So it will just be this amount or divided by 12 times 12, which will give you the same amount. And then in year 3, I will only be able to fund 3 months of my year 3, which still falls within 2 years of the subsidy, right? So it's 1099,104. And although there's 12 months in my financial year, it funds only 3 of them. And that then gives us 27,476. At this point, I want to get to a total. I want to add up the total for the salaries that are actually funded. And that is going to be the sum of all of these amounts, which add up to 202,196,976. I beg your pardon. And at this point, I can now start to do my journals and to do my calculations. Because for the subsidy, I'm going to use this salaries funded. I'm just going to highlight it in yellow. And I'm going to use that as my weight or my weighting in order to calculate how much of this calculation that I'm doing for the subsidy should be carried from deferred income to profit and loss, which is per the explanation or per the policy, they say it needs to be written off against the associated expense. So if we take it to profit and loss, we need to now write it off against the employee remuneration. All right, but accounting sounds very difficult in words, so let's do it practically. I am going to get this subsidy, and I get it on the 1st of June 2021. And let's see, what do I debit and what do I credit, right? Let me just move that on. So what am I going to debit? Definitely my bank account, and I get for skilled workers only, because I'm now busy with required number A. So for skilled workers only, I get 1.5 million Rand. I am going to post it to deferred income because that is the policy. And it's 1.5 million. Now by year end, which is 28 February 2022, I need to go and calculate how much of this deferred income will now be written off against my employee cost or my employee remuneration expense. So I'm going to say I debit the deferred income and I write off against the employee, you can call it employee salaries, employee cost, employee remuneration, but this is a profit and loss account. And this is now where my yellow part comes in. I now need to go and determine of this 1.5 million, how much can be written off against the employee cost. And the amounts that I have highlighted in yellow will be the determining factor or the weighing factor of how this 1.5 million is distributed. So I am going to say on 28 February, the current year, the salaries that should be funded out of the current year is 720,000. And the total is 202,976. And I'm going to times that by the total of the subsidy, which is 1.5 million. And that answer will be the amount that can be taken or paid off against the employee remuneration expense. So it is going to be this 720 divided by the total times the 1.5. And rounded to 2 decimals, I get an answer of 534,130,97. They also ask us to do this calculation for the year ended 28 February 2023. So in this instance, 28 February 2023, we will again have deferred income and employee cost. We will not again recognize the subsidy because it's only paid to you once. It's not paid every year. You get it once off and then you need to use it over the next 24 months or 2 years. So yeah, I'm going to take the next year, which is my 2023, which is this year, and I'm going to use the yellow calculation as my weighing factor. 102,700 divided by 202,1976 times the subsidy total of 1.5 million. So to get to the portion of deferred income that will be paid off against the employee cost, I'm going to say it's this amount divided by the total times 1.5 million. So for the year ended 2023, we are going to book 76,2026,85 out of deferred income and move it against employee cost. Right, wonderful. So this is the entries that you should have done to account for the government subsidy as a deferred income that covers employee remuneration. But this was only for skilled workers, right? So if I open a new sheet, let's look at calculations that should be done for the unskilled workers. And this is going to be very similar, but you will now be able to follow the calculation and see if you understand the principle. So the calc for your unskilled employees, I'm again going to start with, I have year 1, 2, I can actually just copy these years because it is the exact same company, so it will have the same years. Right, so we're going to start off by saying, what is the salary of one employee? And if I look at unskilled workers within the question, we are told that the unskilled workers receive 5,000 Rand currently, which is since 1 March 2021. They have salary increases of 5%. So it's going to be 5,000 times 1,05. And then in the third year, which is actually still part of the government's second year, it's going to be the 5 to 50 times 1,05. Then what is then the annual salary for one employee? It's going to be this amount times 12 in every instance. And then we need to go and see, but what is the annual salary for how many do we employ? 7. For 7 employees. So they tell us, if I can ever spell correctly, that in the question for the unskilled, we only have 7 employees. So doing that calculation, I'm going to take the annual cost times 7 employees in every instance. Right, by now I think you are catching on. Then we need to go and look at what were the months that were funded. So again, we only received it in June. So it was June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. 9 months were funded here. Then a total of 12 months was funded here. And then 3 months remained in order for the government subsidy to be written off over 24 months. So what is the actual salaries funded? So you can only fund salaries from the day that you get the money. So for of this amount, which is for 7 employees for 12 months, we are only able to fund 9. Here we are able to fund all of it. And in the 3rd year, we cannot fund 12, we only fund 3 because then we reach the end of the 2 years in terms of when the government started paying. All right, I'm going to get to my total. And I know now that I can use this as my weighing factor. So I'm going to start with my entry, which is going to be the 1st of June 2021. And this is the day on which I receive the funding from the government. So I'm going to say I increase my bank account. I call it deferred income, as this is the policy. And we get 800,000 Rand for unskilled workers, I believe. So the 800,000, there it was given. Then by the end of my financial year, I am on 28 February 2022. And now I need to take the deferred income and I need to move some of it against my employee cost. Again, it can be employee remuneration also, or salaries. And now I'm going to say, in order to know how much I need to take out of deferred income and play off against the expense, it's going to be in the first year, which I'm busy with, 315,000 divided by the total 871,763. Let me just type correctly, an error can happen so fast, times the 800,000 subsidy. If I do that math, or Excel does it for me, then I get 289,069.56 rounded to 2 decimals. How about the next year? Because they also ask us to do for 28 February 2023. For that year, we are going to say this should actually be based on 2.50, I notice now, if we want to follow the rule strictly. So let's just make sure in terms of rounding, this answer is correct. Yes. Right. So for the next year, we will have to take a bit out of deferred income and move it to employee cost again. And now I'm going to use my yellow second year weight. So it's going to be 441,000 divided by 871,762.50. And I'm going to times it by the 800,000. If I do this calculation, I get to this divided by the total times 800,000, and I get 404,697.38 rounded to 2 decimals as per the instruction. All right, so this is a question that I wanted to share with you. I think very, very interesting when we have a situation where financial years don't coincide. But as you can see, you practically solve this problem by counting the months that are funded and then carrying over any additional months that remain to what would be your additional year, like year 3, which is still considered year 2 because the government had made the payment late and not on the date when the agreement should have started. So I think this is a very, very interesting type of question. And I hope that you have enjoyed this video and that you have learned something that you were not aware of. And then I will definitely see you in my next recording. Keep well until then.